Ladies and gentlemen, in today's video, we're going to analyze the current state of every single WWE championship across the main roster, as well as the championships on NXT. This is a video that we do about every 3 months to give us an opportunity to slow down and smell the roses and analyze the current prestige of the championship, how good the champion is, and how the overall division of that championship is doing. So obviously, I'm going to give you guys my opinions. If you guys disagree, or maybe you have your own opinions that you'd like to share, please leave them down in the comments down below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And I do encourage you, if you do want more than just the daily wrestling content that we do here, to come check out the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap, where you're going to get so much more extra content that we can never post here, like the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, the podcast early, and a bunch of other series that use footage that we can't post here because they would just get blocked due to copyright. So go check it out. Link in the description, link in the pinned comment. That's enough. Let's get started. Let's start things off by talking about the current health of the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. I would say that right now, as of the making of this video, these Tag Team Championship belts are about as healthy as they've been all year. They've actually been defended on back-to-back PLEs, getting championship matches at both Evolution and at SummerSlam, while also getting featured quite heavily on WWE programming over the last couple of months. Now, the reason for this is quite obvious, that WWE has had Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, two mega stars, chasing after the championship, and they are also currently the champions. And this is a blueprint that WWE has followed for a very long time, where the tag team championships just don't matter for a long time, and then two random single stars that aren't really doing anything come together and make noise in the women's tag team division, and all of a sudden the tag team division starts to flourish. They start to get programming, they start to get stories, matches, appearing on PLEs. I've been here before. What I'm concerned about is that whenever Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair drop these championship belts, that we're going to go right back to where we were before with the women's tag team championship division as a whole, which is basically obscurity. Right now, the name of the game is to build the women's tag team division around Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair and take advantage of their popularity, take advantage of the added screen time that these two stars are going to give the division. What they should not do is what they did, unfortunately, with Bianca Belair and Naomi and Jade Cargill when they were champions, which is basically they were the division. They didn't do a great job of building other characters and other teams when they were champions. They need to change that up when Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair are holding these titles, or we're just going to repeat the cycle over and over again. In terms of the division, it's not particularly the most healthy, but we're getting there. We have teams that are actual teams, like the Kabuki Warriors. We, of course, have the Judgment Day, who are still part of the championship picture. We have the Secret Harvest running around. So there are names that you could throw up against Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. You can even look at maybe NXT, like Zaruka, for example. So there are bodies in the division, but it still certainly feels like there aren't enough to really have a full breathing ecosystem. Compare it to, say, the SmackDown tag team division that has like 8 viable tag teams. I can't really say the same for the women's tag team division. But I will say, overall, I think it's trending upward. I think that I would classify the champions, the championship's prestige, the division as just generally healthy right now, but not particularly amazing. Now, let's talk about the World Tag Team titles from the men's side of Monday Night Raw. Unfortunately, the World Tag Team titles aren't particularly very healthy as of the making of this video. The division is starting to grow. They're starting to show signs of life, but they spent such a long time just being dead and irrelevant and not being featured at all that it's going to be a huge uphill battle to try and replenish the division and to try and make people care about these tag titles. The champions aren't particularly doing a great job at really being representatives of the division either, considering most of the time they really aren't even interacting with other tag teams within the tag team division. They spent the majority of the time interacting within themselves within the Judgment Day clubhouse. Yes, when they do have matches, Finn Balor and JD McDonough can be excellent champions, and they are a tremendous amount of fun, but they are unfortunately few and far between. So you don't particularly have the best champions out there. You don't particularly have the healthiest division. You have like the LWO, which is getting featured a little bit more, but I have a feeling that a huge chunk of them being featured more is because we're going into Triple Mania. You did just add all of those El Grande Americanos that could eventually maybe become a tag team. The War Raiders have disappeared. The New Day are being interesting and intriguing with this morning gimmick, but they seem to not really be in the tag team title picture. So yeah, it's not looking the best, but I would say it's better than it was like 5 months ago, I suppose. So I would say that the current state of these titles is just not good right now. Now let's talk about the WWE Tag Team titles from Friday Night SmackDown. And these are the polar opposite of both the women's tag team division that struggles in having teams, and also the complete polar opposite of the Raw tag team division that struggles to even exist. This tag team division is maybe the healthiest tag team division that I've ever seen in WWE history. I'm dead serious. I know that there was the time of Edge, Christian, the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, but like we have like 6, 7, 8 viable, strong tag teams in just this one brand alone. And they're routinely going out there and having unbelievably good matches that are stealing the show, matches that are in conversation for match of the year. And this is just par for the course for this division. The cat's out of the bag. The expectations, anytime you see anything related to the WWE Tag Team titles on Friday Night SmackDown, you're just expecting a bona fide classic, certified fresh banger, which is a lot of pressure to put on them for sure, but they deliver every single time. And you've got lots of teams, as I mentioned, even teams that don't even get championship opportunities, because you still have Los Garzas that are there, and hell, even they're healthy as they're the AAA Tag Team Champions. You can have Pretty Deadly come back to TV screens whenever you want. You can maybe add Melodo Miz, but the actual tag teams that are in there are really propping up this division, like the Wyatt Six, DIY, Motor City Machine Guns. You've got Fraxium, you've got the Street Profits. They're about to add MFT into the picture as well. Like, these things are just doing great. I don't particularly love that the current champions are Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis, because I do think, like from an in-ring perspective, they are the least interesting out of pretty much all of the tag teams that are in this division. But from a character perspective, I think that they serve the role of being the big, scary demons of the division, and they play it very well. Not just that, but in typical heel faction, they have the numbers game to allow them to continue to get away with championship victories or disqualifications and whatnot. But yeah, this division is doing great. The prestige of the championships is at an all-time high. Like, if you told me that there is an upcoming WWE Tag Team Championship match on Friday Night SmackDown, I would say that there's a pretty good chance that it's main eventing that show. Meanwhile, on Monday Night Raw, like, it might happen at like 40 minutes into the show, who knows? WWE Survivor Series is closing in quickly, and I'm sure that you've already heard and expected that ticket prices are gonna get rather steep. I plan on going to the show this year, but between flights and accommodations, it's gonna get quite expensive, so I'm trying to cut down on costs by getting the most affordable show tickets possible. And I'll be doing that thanks to today's video sponsor, SeatGeek. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app, and for a very good reason. There are more than 70,000 events already listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sporting events, festivals, and more. And with SeatGeek, you can be sure that you're going to be getting the absolute best price for whatever seat that you want at whatever show you plan to attend. Every single WWE Premium Live event, as well as episodes of Raw, SmackDown, and WWE live show tickets are all available on SeatGeek as well. So make sure that you stop by there first before you buy your tickets, so that you can make sure that you are getting the best possible price. Because SeatGeek actually shows you if you're getting a good deal or not on whatever ticket it is that you're browsing. So you're going to want to look for the tickets that have green dots, because green dots means good and red dots means a bad deal. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee as well, so you can buy without any sort of concerns. And you guys know that I came through for you, because you can use code SANTI10 for 10% off your next set of tickets over at SeatGeek. Again, that's 10% off any tickets with promo code SANTI10. So make sure that you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so that you can use it later. Thank you again to SeatGeek for sponsoring this video. Now let's get you back to the wrestling that you came for. Let's talk about the NXT Tag Team division here real quick. I think to call it a division is being generous. They're really trying to start from scratch, basically. The current champions, Hank and Tank, don't really have much competition. They have Dark State, but Dark State operates more like a faction than they do as a tag team. Only recently have they added them into the tag team division, so at least that's good. But really beyond that, there's the fellas from Chase U, and then beyond that, High Rise maybe, but even they don't really get any sort of love in the tag team picture either. I would say that this is like the bottom of the barrel, lowest that the NXT tag team division unfortunately has been, which then in turn makes the NXT Tag Team Championships themselves feel the least prestigious that they felt in a very, very long time. So this is in a work in progress. Let's just say that. The Women's North American Championship over on NXT, let's be honest, anything to do with Women's Championship, whether it's mid-card or main championship on NXT, is always going to be in a great position because of the giant talent pool that NXT has. It also helps that the current champion is somebody that is really over, is somebody that people see a really bright future for. Sol Ruca really is elevating this championship, not just with her overall popularity, but also with how good her matches have been. And she gets featured pretty much every single episode of NXT. She gets PLE spots as well. She's recently gotten some main roster hype as well in the build-up to Evolution, where she kind of stole the show through 3 matches in just like 48 hours. Yeah, this division is in a great spot. Like, the title matters, championship matches matter. The match she just had with Tatum Paxley in the main event of NXT was an absolute banger, like way better than I thought it had any right to be. And what's interesting about this division right now is that there is a very clear end path, which is a championship match between her and Zarya. And I can't really say that for many of the championship belts on this list. They don't really have this big upcoming championship match that you're just sort of waiting for the first domino to fall for. So yeah, this thing is doing great. Oh boy, the Women's United States Championship. I thought that things would be better since the last video. Unfortunately, they're not. We are now 3 champions into the lineage of the United States Championship from the women's side, and unfortunately, none of the champions have really been able to elevate the championship. Chelsea Green, although she was a fun inaugural champion, she didn't really do a great job at building the overall prestige of this championship. And then Zelina Vega hardly got featured. And then the current champion, Julia, is kind of suffering from the same problem as Zelina Vega in that she isn't featured. However, this is a champion that people are clamoring for to be featured more, and they might be going down that route with her and Kiana James being paired up. Maybe there being a program here with Jade Cargill sometime down the line. I think that there could be something here. We might be seeing a little bit of kindling so that maybe we can get an actual fire here. But right now, this division and this title is basically dead. It was obviously a massive red flag that this championship belt just kept missing PLE after PLE, but missing Evolution to me was one of the nail in the coffins that you just can't really make a good argument for. That is an all women's PLE. You have a mid-card women's champion. She gets no match. She gets put into a battle royal where she just sort of gets discarded of without really any sort of, I don't know, like drama. She was just sort of eliminated in the middle of the battle royal. So from what I'm seeing as a fan from the outside looking in is I'm seeing a champion, I'm seeing a division and a championship belt that WWE completely sees as an afterthought. They see as a maybe fun little side project. And until I see otherwise, until I see actual genuine effort at giving Julia screen time, character work, giving her promos, giving her stories, giving her matches, I can't say anything aside from this division is basically dead. The prestige of the championship, it's basically being propped up purely because the champion is Julia, because Julia is awesome and she's got this like scary aura about her, but that's about it. That's the only reason why this championship matters at the moment. It's so sad. It's so sad to think about it that way. Like, I look at the division and who is there? Like, there's Zelina Vega, so that she's already like beaten in the rematch. And then, yeah, maybe they do add Jade Cargill, but Jade Cargill kind of has eyes for bigger fish, the WWE Women's Championship. Like, what is there in this division? I don't know. Hopefully when we redo this video closer to the end of the year, that things have changed, hopefully for the positive for the Women's United States Championship. And it's like the polar opposite with the Women's Intercontinental Championship, because this thing is just knocking it out of the park every single time it gets any ounce of screen time. It struggled at first at the beginning of the year with Lyra Valkyria as the champion, but ever since Lyra came off of WrestleMania, the heel turn of Becky Lynch, the feud between Lyra and Becky, the great triple threat match at Evolution, the great match at SummerSlam, that feud between Lyra and Becky propelled this championship to new heights. But I really think it's the work of Becky Lynch, this current heel iteration of Becky Lynch, that is making this championship feel like it feels like a world championship, in my opinion. To me, this is also the best work that Becky Lynch has has done in her entire career. And yes, I am including the phase of the man in 2019. And there just seems to be now a revolving door of new characters that are going after this championship. Sure, we were sort of in a vortex of Lyra, Becky, and Bayley, but it was a great vortex to be in because it was great storytelling, great promos, great matches. They got lots of screen time, but now we're on to new things, and now we're experimenting with Maxine Dupree, with Nikki Bella, and I'm here for it. I'm here for the Women's Intercontinental Champion to be a workhorse, giving an opportunity to all types of challengers across their brand. It feels like a proper mid-card title. It feels like how the Intercontinental Championship felt in the early days of the Ruthless Aggression era and in the Attitude era, where like it actually felt like a jumping off point, like something that could propel you to superstardom if you can win it. And it certainly helps that Becky Lynch is the champion, because not only would you be winning a prestigious championship in a healthy division, you would be dethroning an amazing champion that is a first ballot Hall of Famer. So whoever wins this championship is gonna get catapulted to the moon. But like, think about like the opposite, the Women's United States Championship. Whoever wins that, they ain't getting catapulted to anything. I'm just gonna be concerned about their screen time in general. So the Intercontinental Championship from the women's side, this thing, don't change anything. Keep doing everything that you're doing there. You're doing everything great. The North American Championship over on NXT. Let's talk about this bad boy. I would say that we are in a bit of a low with the North American Championship. The current champion is awesome. Ethan Page is a fantastic champion. He has great matches, so much charisma, great backstage segments, great promos, and generally like good storylines as well. But it does sort of feel like we're in a bit of a reset off the back of what was a great feud against Ricky Saints, but Ricky Saints seems to be out of the picture entirely. And now we're just sort of experimenting with Ethan Page and the different people that he could face, which is the same with what they're doing with the Women's Intercontinental Championship, but I just don't think that they've done as good a job with the North American Championship as they have with the Women's IC Champion. Now, right now, the current challenger is Tavion Heights, and that really does seem out of nowhere. Tavion Heights hasn't really accomplished much in a singles career on NXT, so it does sort of feel like out of the blue to start this new feud and getting this big push into the mid-card. But hey, I'm here for it because I do like new people getting opportunities. But it is a significant downgrade from what they were doing between Ethan Page and Ricky Saints. So we're in a bit of a reset, but I would say that things are still generally healthy here. So I'm still going to give this division, the champion, the overall prestige, a thumbs up. Let's talk about the United States Championship, because I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of the current spot that it's in, but it's also, it would just be wrong for me to say that it's not in a healthy place, because this thing gets featured every single episode of Friday Night SmackDown. This thing is getting on PLE after PLE after PLE. So what's the problem? I think for me, the problem has been just this back and forth between Solo and Jacob Fatu. I haven't found particularly entertaining over the last couple of months. I think it's great that Solo has finally won a singles championship, but this rinse and repeat every single week. It's basically a copy and paste every single week with all Solo Sikoa related matches and segment involving MFT. It is the same thing every week. And it just felt like we were just repeating everything every single week when it was Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. That's why I'm glad that maybe that feud is done. Maybe we're going to go off and do something. Unfortunately, that something is Sami Zayn, and we've seen Sami Zayn versus Solo Sikoa and something adjacent to the bloodline so many times already that I would have preferred for Solo Sikoa to face off against some of the people that are struggling to get screen time over on Friday Night SmackDown, like a Carmelo Hayes. Like, why are we feuding with somebody on Monday Night Raw right now? I will say I'm probably being very opinionated here in that I don't like what's going on in terms of storylines with the championship. In terms of matches, we haven't had anything that's like a particular banger of a match. But again, it would be wrong and irresponsible of me to say that this thing isn't in a good position because it's on a champion that gets featured a lot. It was on a champion that was being pegged as one of the next pillars of the WWE. This thing appears every single episode, every PLE. So clearly it's in a good spot. It's just not my cup of tea right now. The Intercontinental Championship. Let's talk about this sucker now. I'm going to be honest with you. I would say that the current state of the division isn't as healthy as it's been before. I love Dominic Mysterio, but I don't think that they've done a great job at making Dominic Mysterio feel like an Intercontinental Champion, at least not yet. They finally did, I would say, at SummerSlam with AJ Styles, with that really fun tribute to Eddie Guerrero type match. But even then, I would say that the championship felt like an afterthought in that storyline. It really felt more about the relationship and the hijinks between Dominic Mysterio and AJ Styles than it did for the championship belt, which again isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I don't think it's the best thing either. And I think that right now this championship belt is just sort of taking a back burner. It's in a back seat. We're just sort of waiting for it to come back to life until after Triple Mania, because the focus for Dominic Mysterio hasn't really been the Intercontinental Championship over the last couple of weeks. It's been this buildup to potentially becoming the AAA Mega Champion, which I do hope he becomes the Mega Champion. But if he does become the Mega Champion, I actually hope that he drops the Intercontinental Championship sometime soon after that, so that he can focus on that and allow the Intercontinental Championship to flourish more on Monday Night Raw. The medical injury and like the lack of medical clearance from Dominic Mysterio throughout like the big portion of the summer certainly hurt this championship. But even before that, he wasn't being featured heavily at all. There was a meme that all he was doing was having matches without any storyline, with a bunch of geometric shapes like pentagon and octagon. I've made the joke that we were probably waiting for a rematch against Hijo del Triangle Jr. at this point. But now that he's back from whatever injury that was, he's having matches and storylines, but now it's stopped again with the focus on the AAA Mega Championship. I think that it'll be easier to tell how this championship reign is going, whether it's good or bad, once Triple Mania is done. I think things are okay, but they've certainly been better with the champion and with the overall division and the prestige of the championship. Let's talk about the Women's NXT Championship now. I love what they're doing over in NXT. I love that the champion is somebody that I don't think anybody expected to be champion in JC Jane, but she is being heavily featured, obviously pretty much on every episode of NXT, but she's also featured heavily over on TNA because she's also the TNA Knockouts champion. And so the NXT Women's Championship is appearing on two separate wrestling shows, appearing on pay-per-views for TNA, appearing on PLEs for WWE. Like, it's about as good as it can get. And the rotating door of different challengers for JC Jane is pretty awesome. It can range from like at any moment it could be Blake Monroe. We just had Jordan Grace. Lola Vice is going after this championship right now. Kalani Jordan, Miss Parker, and those are just the names from NXT. Just wait until the names from TNA start going after the NXT Championship as well, like Masha Slamovich. So I would say that things are pretty solid right now. This relationship with TNA is certainly helping bolster the overall prestige and the overall importance of the current champion, JC Jane, and making the division feel beefier as well by adding an entire locker room from a different brand. The Women's World Championship. This is a weird time to make this video because it's kind of in limbo. And it's weird because of the current status of the Women's World Champion. We have no idea what's going on here. There are a ton of speculations on Twitter, but I'm not going to sit here and feed the speculations, but the speculations exist nonetheless. And these speculations, maybe if they end up being true, will lead to her having to relinquish the championship. I will say, I think it's a little bit weird that they advertised Naomi versus Io Sky so heavily for Monday Night Raw, only for them to pull it like a couple of hours before the show by just simply saying she's not medically cleared, no segment, no explanation. She's just not there. And that to me generally is a red flag of something that could be serious enough that could warrant taking time off, unfortunately. I hope that's not the case. If the one rumor of her pregnancy is real, then congratulations, that's amazing news. If she is injured, damn it, that sucks, and I hope that she can come back as quickly as possible. But Monday Night Raw and the women's main event scene was starting to go in the right direction, right? With a new heel champion that was doing some of the best work of her career while being surrounded by a who's cast of amazing main eventers like Stephanie Velcro, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley. Things were looking good for Monday Night Raw, like a place where things were kind of struggling when it came to the main event scene if your name wasn't Rhea Ripley. So to lose Naomi at this point would be it would just be awful. It would suck. Let's pretend that Naomi is not out, though. I would say that the division is in a great spot. It's being featured now heavily since Evolution on PLEs, getting a spot at Evolution, SummerSlam, the upcoming show Clash in Paris. We have a scheduled match appearing on Monday Night Raw, storylines, non-PLE matches that were scheduled like her and Io. So things I would say are generally good, but we are sort of of in standby mode as we wait and hear to see what the news is on Naomi. The WWE Women's Championship. I don't know, man. I have a love-hate relationship with this thing. I say love-hate relationship because I love the current champion, Tiffany Stratton, but I don't love what they're doing with Tiffany Stratton as of late. Her championship match against Jade Cargill I thought was a lot of fun, but the program and the storyline and the build-up left not just a lot to be desired. It left everything to be desired because there really was no storyline and no build-up. Double goes for the match and storyline that she had going into Evolution with Trish Stratus, and then before that, she basically missed PLEs and was just in this rotating hamster wheel of just only having matches with Nia Jax. So it still feels like Tiffany Stratton's reign has barely even started, even though it's already 8 months long. So I'm still waiting for that big feud for Tiffany Stratton. I'm still waiting for that big storyline. I'm still waiting to clamor and demand for Tiffy to be in such a good storyline where I beg and plead for it to get put on a PLE. But I say that we haven't gotten that as of yet, unfortunately. I would say it's no fault of Tiffany Stratton. Whenever she does get matches, she makes the best out of them. Now, in terms of the division, it's fine. You know, you've got Tiffy there. You do have Nia Jax, but, you know, like, I don't think anybody wants to see Nia Jax win the championship. Jade Cargill, sure. I would say you could say Charlotte and Alexa Bliss at any moment could be added to this picture, but we're also waiting for the return of Bianca Belair, who will certainly help bolster up this division when she comes back. So I'll say it's not the healthiest, but it's not horrible. The NXT Championship. This thing has been in a weird stasis for the last several months. I would say for the last year since Obafemi won the championship. I think weirdly enough, part of the problem with this division in this championship is the champion Obafemi. And that's nothing against Obafemi. I think Obafemi is amazing. I just think that he is so dominant, so awesome at his job that most people in the division just don't feel like legitimate contenders to Obafemi. Like, to me, the legitimate contenders do not go beyond Javon Evans and Trick Williams, and even then, he's already beaten both of them. So I don't really know what you can do here with this division because they've got themselves an Obafemi problem, which I do think is a good problem to have. Funny enough, we've had this problem before in NXT. Her name was Asuka when she had her ridiculously dominant championship run where no one seemed like it was a viable option to dethrone Asuka anytime soon. Basically, NXT just had to rely on her relinquishing the championship like she ultimately had to. Now, I hope that doesn't happen with Obafemi, and if it does happen, I hope it's because he gets called up to the main roster as opposed to injury. But yeah, in the time that Obafemi has been champion, like I said earlier, the only two like realistic contenders are Javon Evans and Trick Williams, and it's been almost a year since he's been champion, and we're still there. The only viable contenders are still just Trick Williams and Javon Evans, and Trick Williams is busy in TNA, and Javon Evans has been on some side quests, finally making it back to Obafemi, maybe by Heatwave. I think it's just so funny that the division is in a bit of a jam simply because the champion is just so strong and so dominant. Now let's talk about the World Heavyweight Championship, and yeah, things have drastically changed for this thing over the last 3 months since we last did this video. Since we last did this video, the champion was Jey Uso, who had taken it off of Gunther, Gunther who had a championship reign that peaked within the first 4 weeks of him being champion with that match at Bash in Berlin against Randy Orton, because then beyond that, it was the never-ending feud with Damian Priest. Then you added Finn Balor in there, then he became Sad Gunther, then he feuded with Jey Uso, and then he feuded with Jey Uso again, and then he lost the championship to Jey Uso, and then Jey Uso went on to have a pretty lackluster championship reign that didn't last particularly very long, and then he lost it to Gunther, who then went on to have a match, very lackluster, against Goldberg, and then he lost it to CM Punk, and now this thing is back from what was going towards obscurity to superstardom, because CM Punk winning it obviously elevated this championship big time, but then Seth Rollins with the ruse of the century brought this right back to being like the most important thing in the WWE. I still don't think it's at the levels of the WWE Undisputed Championship currently being held by Cody Rhodes, but between CM Punk and Seth Rollins, the 5-minute sequence of events that happened at SummerSlam, this thing is back to being super important after feeling like a major afterthought with Gunther and Jey Uso as champions. And the division is healthy again, because when Gunther and Jey Uso were champions, it just sort of felt like all the main eventers didn't want to go after the World Championship. It sort of felt felt like we were just sort of experimenting with new contenders. But now that Seth Rollins is champion, you've got CM Punk in there. You might have Roman Reigns sometime soon. LA Knight is in the picture. You've got now Jey Uso going after the thing as well. So now it feels like now like a big name like a Seth Rollins is holding this thing. Now all of a sudden the main eventers have opened their eyes and realized, oh yeah, we want this thing. And obviously it being on the top heel of the leader of the top heel faction in the WWE is a great look as well. So things are just fine and dandy for the World Heavyweight Championship, which again is funny because in the last video they weren't particularly great. And last but not least, the WWE Undisputed Championship. This thing went on quite the journey over the last couple of months with John Cena winning at WrestleMania 41, turning heel, and then going on to have some bizarrely fun, good, enjoyable matches with the likes of Randy Orton, Ron Killings. You had the match against CM Punk, and obviously the fantastic SummerSlam match at against Cody Rhodes, where we now have a new champion in it being once again Cody Rhodes. I think this thing is about as healthy as it could be right now because one, it's on the face of the franchise in Cody Rhodes, but you don't have the ever-looming presence of The Rock where we just sort of have to wait for The Rock to come back, and anything that happens between now and The Rock coming back doesn't really feel like a canon event. It sort of feels like filler. Nah, that's gone. He's having feuds with the likes of Drew McIntyre, and that does not feel like a filler feud. Drew McIntyre could very well win the championship, especially knowing that Cody Rhodes might have to take time off because of Street Fighter and the filming of the movie. So it feels like we now have a championship that is something that's actually winnable. You know, it's not just this thing that happens to be a prop on Cody Rhodes while we wait for The Rock to come back. And that to me, it just makes the division infinitely better. Obviously, you've got names like Drew McIntyre, maybe Logan Paul, which I know people would be pissed about. Who knows, maybe a rematch with John Cena. You've got Randy Orton waiting in the wings. This thing, in terms of the names that could be going after it, this thing is going to be just fine. This thing will always be what closes PLEs. It will be what closes episodes of Friday Night SmackDown. It continues to be the most important thing, the most important prize on the WWE. So things are great here. But again, I want to reiterate how nice it is to not have the ever-looming shadow of the final boss is going to be Bloodline Rules. All right, folks, thanks so much for watching this video. We'll do this again in like 3-4 months. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.